Terry, I thought of you because I remember a conversation you and I had about 2 years ago at the grand opening of Town Hall. There were two ladies standing there with Terry and I, and they were political junkies. I mean, that's why they came up to us. They wanted to hear what we were talking about politically. And the lady said, well, it's the craziest thing in the world the Republican Party could ever do is dominate Donald Trump. And Terry said, a Democrat, I'd be careful saying that. I'd be real careful dismissing Donald Trump as a candidate for president. Terry, you said that as a Democrat at a time that most Republicans were dismissing Donald Trump as a candidate for president. Why did you believe that?
Well, I think what was happening is that there was a shifting in this country, and it's still shifting. Donald Trump is not the shifter, but he's helping this country make that shift. We are not where we need to be, even with President Trump doing what he's doing. But I saw the country looking for change. We didn't know what that change was going to look like. But the country was looking for changes. I said so many times before, if we recall, we had Donald Trump on the Republican side, came out of nowhere. And then we had an independent, Bernie Sanders, on the Democratic side, came out of nowhere, just out of nowhere. And he ran well. And then we had Hillary Clinton, part of the establishment for the last 20 or 30 years, almost. And the people wanted something different. And Donald was different, and different ain't always good. And it's not always bad either.
Sure.
Different is just different.
But Terry, Bernie Sanders, and we're doing a Facebook Live segment. If you want to watch this conversation, you can go to our Facebook page at Live953. Trump and Sanders are opposite in a lot of ways, but they were speaking about some of the same issues. The system's broken. There have been people left behind. The government has advantaged a certain group of people who know how to manipulate it, and others' livelihoods have been left in shambles. There was kind of commonality in what Trump said and what Bernie Sanders said.
Let me. I had a conversation with Henry McMaster some months ago, and we was talking about some services, and I said, we want the government to do ABC. He said, hold up, Terry. I'm not the government. I'm the governor. The government is these department agency heads. They the one that get things done. And I think sometimes when we think of government, we think of elected officials. We're just elected officials. But when you think of government, you think of department heads. You think of housing. You think of education. You think of HHS. Those are government that actually does the work, not the president. Congressman passes policies, but the work is done by staff members. And I think sometimes we confuse that. When things don't go our way, we blame the government. Me. Folks don't like elected officials, but people over in the district that I serve likes me. But collectively, they don't like us because they see us a part of the psyche that's not doing what we need to be doing. So I think we somehow need to separate government from elected officials. And that made, I thought about, I can't do all these things you asking me to do because I don't work for them. I don't work for Employment Security Commission. I don't work for DJJ. I don't work for those. So when you come in and ask me, now you may ask me to call them and I'll call them on your behalf, but I don't work for them. And so I think we have to separate it. Trump doesn't work for the government. Trump works for the people of this country. Trump sets policies and procedures that makes a difference.
So, Terry, when you think of Trump and Bernie Sanders, I've got a theory, and I want to hear yours. I believe we are in a political reset.
Yeah.
I don't know where we end up. I mean, Mark Cuban, Oprah Winfrey, I mean, all these people now, their names are being mentioned, and nobody laughs anymore. Right. I mean, if Trump didn't do anything, when Oprah Winfrey says, I'm considering it, nobody laughs.
Right.
When Mark Cuban says, I'd give it a whirl, nobody laughs.
Right.
Do we go back to the standards of American politics, or did Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders create this new phenomenon that things will never be the same again?
Well, I think Barack Obama did that when he was elected, one of the first black presidents of this country. He changed how we saw things. He changed how the government operated. They're talking about the employees. He changed how elected officials saw him. He changed this country, whether you like it or not. It's almost like when a new member joins the church changes. We may not see it, but he or she is bringing in a different perspective. Trump came in as a new member and changed because he brings in a sense of newness. Now, I don't know where we're going to head either, but I do know that I don't think we're going back. You know, we can't undo what has been done. Where we're going to be in 2 to 4 years, I have no idea. Who's going to be the candidates? Have no idea. Who's going to be on the Republican ticket or the Democratic ticket? I have no idea. You know, with this whole media thing, you know, things can flip just like that.
Sure they can.
I mean, 24 hours.
There's a lifetime.
12 hours. You know, we can be in one direction, and then all of a sudden we back at another direction. So I don't know how this thing is going to operate. I would just ask people to be mindful and do their own research and do their own study. You find things out on Facebook that's, you know, some true, some not so true, some slanted, some not so slanted. So it's going to be interesting these next 2 years how we move this country, you know, for the greater good for those who are coming behind us.
Terry and I have a lot of private conversations. I'm going to make one public. I hope he doesn't mind this. I'm a former elected official, so I don't have to answer to the voters anymore. Terry and I have always felt, and I guess this is kind of a common bond we have, we've always felt that people in public office, people with a spotlight shining on what they say and what they do and how they live, can't risk going down the road of having an honest discourse about race.
Yeah.
You're afraid to do that. If you're a Republican, you're afraid to say something because it could be perceived a certain way, and it offends your base.
Right.
If you're a Democrat, you got to be careful about saying things about race, whether you believe them or not, because there's an electorate out there that wants you to say things a certain way. I think Terry and I agree that the only way we'll ever advance race relations in America is to have these conversations that so many people of influence are uncomfortable having.
Absolutely right. And not only that, and if you're a good God-fearing person, you would have that conversation too. If you're a good God-fearing, Bible-reading, Bible-meditated, Bible-studying person, you know that when you stand, you really don't stand alone. Even though you may be speaking alone, but you don't stand alone. And so it's your belief and it's your faith in the God that we say we serve. And somehow, somewhere, as we talked about it in some degree, we have allowed our culture to dictate our laws that's on the book. The Constitution is very clear. You know, you have freedom of speech. But our culture says, no, you don't. You have freedom to protest. But our culture says you can't protest right now. So what we have done, we have allowed our culture, my culture, your morals, to override the law. I have the right to protest by law. But your culture say, no, you don't. I have the right, I have the right to be free from my religious affiliations by the law. But my culture said, if you ain't one of us, the law don't matter. So what do we do? Particularly those of us who study the law and those of us who declared ourselves to be followers of Christ. But then when it comes to having a person different from me go against what I'm thinking, I get upset and say, well, you can't do that. But the law says I can. But the culture is saying, no, you can't.
Do you sense in Columbia the level of partisanship that we see every night? I mean, the TV behind you is on MSNBC tomorrow, maybe on Fox. Do you sense that unwillingness to work together across the aisle?
Well, no, I don't sense that. I think it's kind of gotten a little softer, but right now the Republicans still is the dominant party. So it doesn't matter how hard we get or how soft they are. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game. You know, I don't care how right you are. I don't care how right your information is. I don't care how wrong you are. If you got the numbers, enough numbers to vote to get it passed, regardless how bad it is, that's what it is. But it's not as harsh as it used to be. It's interesting, and I often say that I say, and I didn't realize we could go this far into the extreme with our president. I said, when Obama leaves, this country is gonna calm down. You know, and the reality of it is, Obama shocked this country because of his race. And that's the real deal. Some folks say race doesn't matter, that I don't see color. Then you are blind. if you don't see that I'm a black man, if you don't see that I'm black, psychologists say the first thing you notice about a person is their color. And that's not a bad thing. That's the reality. And the second thing you notice about a person is their gender. Color, gender. So for you to say, I don't see color,
you're being dishonest.
You're being dishonest.
Fundamentally dishonest.
Fundamentally dishonest. So let's just be real about it. You know, and race matters in this country. It shouldn't, but it does. And that's reality. And once we get across that bar and start having that conversation, then we're going to move on. You know, I don't agree with everything black folks do or say. You don't agree with everything white folks do or say. And that's the reality. So why should I get all upset with you because you and I don't see eye to eye? I think Ronald Reagan said some time ago, if he get 90% of what he wants, he's doing all right.
They can have the 10%.
Yeah, you can have that. If I'm doing 90%, that's a good beat.
Hey, last question I want to ask you, and I appreciate your time. We're in the middle of a Republican and Democrat primary. The Republicans, I guess there's 3 candidates over there that people would perceive to be front runners. You're more involved in Democrats, and Terry's a political operative. Don't be misled. Terry's a worker in that world, and I know him to be very competent in the way he works around that world. Give us your take on the. I'm not saying who you're voting for, but give us your take on, I guess, handicap the Democrat primary from your perspective.
Well, you know, we got 3 candidates running: Phil Noble, Marguerite Willis, and James Smith. And I think, in my mind's eye, that there's a candidate that probably have the greater chance of winning in November, and that's what we have to look towards. You know, winning the primary is the easy task. Winning the general election becomes a hard task.
Because it's a red state. South Carolina's a red state.
It's a red state in terms of voting, but the numbers, there's enough Democratic numbers. You know, there was something like 300,000 Democrats that were registered, did not vote the last time. The first time Nikki Haley got elected, she won by 60,000 votes. We have something like 25, 30,000 teachers. A certain amount of teachers that don't even vote. Teachers that don't even vote. So it's about winning. It's about the long haul. I remember I was reading something the last couple of weeks ago and just talking about this kid, this young lady that was pregnant, and the father of the pregnancy. They was concerned about the 9 months. You know, the 9 months. You know, when we do the 9 months. But if you having a child, you have to be concerned about 18 years. Not just 9 months.
Or 27 years.
28 years. I can contest that. 28 years, you know. 29 in June, as far as I'm concerned. and so we have to look the long haul, the Democrats. We have to look the long haul. And looking the long haul is that who's going to be able to defeat the Republican candidate in November. And that's what we need to really, really consider. Not because we
care to tell me who you think that is?
Not because, I'm going to tell you, not because we like a certain person. You know what I mean? But because of their record over the course of their life. You see, that's what you look at, over the course of their life. And, you know, and in my mind's eye, my candidate is James Smith.
I figured that. James is a good guy.
I've seen James work the last 12 years. I've seen him go what we call to the well and fight for issues for the least of these. I've seen that. You know, I've seen him stood by himself. I'm like, boy, you know, I've seen him do those things. So I'm looking down the road. James is a veteran. You know, a lot of folks don't know James was 37 years old. James was in what you call it. He was a commission officer getting ready for JAG, and they was getting ready to send him to Afghan. Before he went to Afghan, he told them, get him out of that commission. And he wanted to go back and go through basic training like everybody else. 37 years old, giving up a commission and JAG.
To be a soldier.
And
serve the country.
That's commitment. You see, that's really, really commitment. He wasn't looking for James. He was looking out for this country and for those soldiers. And I just think that, and I think that he and Mandy make a good team. Mandy, good old country girl, you know, grew up on the farm, sharecropper, nice girl.
And smart girl.
Good story. She has a real good story. We would hear her story. So you have commitment and you have dedication.
Interesting. Thank you, my friend.
Bless you, man.
Good to see you. We got to get out of here. We got to call in at 8:30, I think. Always good to see Terry. And I mean that sincerely. We have these very sincere, candid. Had one yesterday at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
We'll
take a time in 2 weeks.
You're right. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a minute. Good morning, PD Live 95. Thanks to our good friends and sponsor at Schofield's.